really cold,
Yeah.
but they don't mind being in when it's a little chilly.
Yeah, that's so interesting because we never think about lions in the snow. Well, Ken Harwood, it has been amazing to be here and to get to see the lions and to get to see them like we never have before. Thanks for letting us be here.
Thanks for coming out.
It's great to see you. Okay, so I'm going to leave you here, and then let's go walk back down to the lowest viewing point just so you get a real vantage point of all three. So again, this is the upper deck where you get to not only see them, but you get to hear them really well. And then this is the middle viewing spot right here. And the middle viewing spot, of course, is where you're looking straight in through what used to be a rock wall, but now it's glass. And when they're laying right there, you do not get any closer. I mean, they are right there and they are loving every single minute of it. And then there's one more lower viewing spot. And actually, it's right now still under a little bit of work, but we're going to go around and show it to you. You go down the stairs here, and I'll tell you, when they come in and out here, you get the best views. And we got some video of that earlier this morning of them walking right by this window, and they were loving it. And then you look right in, and there they are, laying right there. So this is the lowest of the 3 new viewing spots for the African lions here at Zoo Atlanta. Come say hello, and maybe you'll get a roar in response.
And good morning, and thanks for joining us. I'm Elizabeth Rollins, and this is News Now. We continue to follow the very latest from Vatican City, where thousands of folks continue to mourn the loss of Pope Francis. That mass funeral wrapping up just within the last few hours, starting at 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 o'clock over in Italy. We'll have more on that in just a bit. But first, we actually want to go to our Alex Forbes, who is standing by at the Weather Center. Alex, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Elizabeth. I tell you what, we're starting to see some breaks in the clouds. It's not widespread just yet, but we're going to be looking at that here through the morning hours. Here's a live look over downtown now. As we track this through the next little bit, we are going to be looking at temperatures continuing to rise. 67, the current number. Officially measuring a little sun at the airport for what it's worth. That's still 2 degrees cooler, 67 that is, than we were this time yesterday. 63 in Cherokee County, 62 in Blue Ridge, 68 up in Clayton, 65 down in Eatonton, 70 over in Thomaston. We zoom out and we look across the southeast. We're looking at nothing going on up towards the north and to the west. So that's pretty nice, right? No system impending here for us here in North Georgia. Now, temperatures are going to break into the 80s later this afternoon, and it is going to come with a 20% chance of rain. So we are not going to be completely quiet, or completely dry across North Georgia. So be on the lookout for that, right? Most people aren't going to see rain, but those who do could see just a quick shower. Here's how it looks on that hour-by-hour forecast. You see a couple sprinkles in there, and that's about it. Again, most people are not going to see anything here across North Georgia. Now, as we work our way into the overnight hours and into tomorrow, take a look at this. Right back close to that 80-degree mark by about 6 p.m. with a couple more showers across the area. And then I would be on the lookout for Monday morning, potentially some heavier downpours in the mix before all is said and done across North Georgia. Again, not everybody's going to see rain, and those who do, in this instance, might see a little more than just a quick shower. There we are at 5 p.m. on Monday. But as for today, 82 here in the city, 76 is our average high temperature, 82 in Gainesville, 83 in Athens and in Covington, 82 in LaGrange, and 81 over in Rome. Just going to say scattered clouds and much drier across the area. Then for tonight, down to about 62 here in the city, 59 in Covington and in Athens, 58 in Gainesville, 49 over in Blairsville, and 54 in Rome. So yeah, today pretty nice, tomorrow pretty nice, 83. It is warm for this time of year, right? I mentioned we were above average. The other thing I want to point out, our severe storm outlook. Look, Monday and Tuesday, no concern here in North Georgia, but the trend that I'm seeing, and I'm hoping it's going to stay with us here for the rest of severe weather season, because that'd be pretty nice, is as we get into summertime, as we transition from winter to summer, the jet stream typically relocates itself up towards the north, and that's what it's doing now. So a big time severe weather day on Monday for parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, and the fact that we're seeing that up there and not down in, say, Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas, and Oklahoma is a good sign for us in the weeks to come. Are we said and done with severe weather? No, we never are. But the fact that we're seeing that shift towards the north is at least some good news as we work our way into May. All right, here's your Fox 5 Storm Team 7-day forecast. A 20% chance of rain today and tomorrow. High temperatures in the 80s. You saw that slight uptick in the forecast, the hour-by-hour model. Brought it up to a 30% chance of rain there for Monday, and that's for the whole day, right? That's not going to be just the afternoon. I think we could see some morning showers as well. Cloudy and dry for Tuesday before we get into the middle part of the week on a really warm note, Elizabeth. We're going to be looking for temperatures in the mid-80s here on Wednesday and Thursday with a 20% chance of rain.
Not ready for the 80s. All right. Thanks so much, Alex Forbes. All right. So MARTA is preparing for the World Cup. Atlanta's hosting the World Cup next year, but MARTA says they may not actually be ready. We want to go to our Lindsay Tuman, who is joining us live in Somerville with more details. Lindsay.
Hey, good morning to you, Elizabeth. Well, this is surrounding one project in particular, the Rapid A line, which is a route that's going to get people from some of the busiest areas of downtown down to the Beltline. This project is already under construction, but now it's hitting some major roadblocks. So the route is supposed to connect downtown to the Southside Beltline, and it's a 5-mile loop that will hit 5 Points, City Hall, Summerhill, Peoplestown. It will also go back down to the Beltline and then up back through Hank Aaron Boulevard. This is going to have dedicated lanes, act as kind of an express bus route to get people through this really busy area. It was supposed to be operational by this summer and then fully in service by the time the World Cup happens in 2026. But now MARTA is telling Atlanta city leaders that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. MARTA says it's hitting some big logistical problems with this project. It also says the cost has more than doubled. It was supposed to be a $58 million project. That's now looking more like $123 million. And Atlanta city leaders say MARTA is asking the city to foot the bill.
That is a huge problem. They're asking us to pay more, which I don't think is going to happen.
Yeah, so Atlanta city leaders pushing back against that proposal, and the Atlanta COO rather has actually asked MARTA to provide an itemized report of why exactly this cost has more than doubled, and to get a better idea of what these logistical challenges are. This project, though, very important in terms of public transportation and seeing that massive influx of people we're expecting for the World Cup. So it's already under construction. Now the question is going to be, when is it going to get done? How much is it going to cost, and who's going to foot the bill? And of course, we'll keep you updated on that. Elizabeth?
Thanks so much, Lindsay Tuman, joining us live. Thank you. Well, the world is saying goodbye to Pope Francis just 5 days after he passed away following a stroke. Francis, the first Latin American pope in history, was known for charming the world with his humble style and concern for the poor. Until Friday, Francis had been lying in state in a simple wooden coffin inside St. Peter's Basilica. The Vatican kept the doors open all night due to a higher than expected turnout from mourners across the globe. The Pope touching so many lives, even folks right here in Atlanta.
What he means to us is a choice to be with the poor and a voice for the poor. He had a very special place in his heart for people who had migrated in and out of countries.
I actually had the opportunity to speak to an Atlanta bishop who was appointed by Pope Francis. We'll have his story coming up in just a bit. We'll be right back. Joining us, I'm Elizabeth Rollins, and this is News Now. As we continue to follow the death of Pope Francis, we are talking to folks who knew him and knew him personally, including an Atlanta bishop. Bishop Konzen is joining me now via Zoom from the Archdiocese of Atlanta.
Thank you so much for meeting with me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's been a heavy week for the Catholic community, the Christian community. How are you feeling about everything so far?
It has been a busy week. Easter, as you know, the lead up to Easter is often a very busy time in the church. And generally, I think priests would think that Easter Monday is the one day when maybe they can breathe a little easier, you know? And so this year we were all surprised. We were surprised when we woke up and found out that overnight, unbelievably in a way, because we saw the Pope just the day before, had died during what was for us during the night. Yeah, it was, I think, for most of us, a little hard to believe. And And yet, after that Monday, life goes on in our local church and elsewhere, even as we're hearing stories of and kind of wondering about what's taking place in Rome, knowing that at some point relatively soon there must be a burial and there must be then that followed by the election of a successor.
How is this impacting your congregation and the Atlanta, Catholic community? How are folks trying to remember him from here?
Yeah, I think in a variety of different ways. I've been to some of the parishes during the week for one reason or another, and it's hanging rather heavy, I think, with parishioners here and there. You can just tell it in the things that they say and the kind of solemn moments that they want to be sure are kept in during the Mass and so forth. You know, normally we would be remembering a living Pope at Mass and every time we gather for Mass. And I think we all have to catch ourselves this week. There is no Pope right now, and yet we're praying for Francis, even as he has died, because he would be the first to say, "I too am a sinner," and we all need prayers. You know.
Seeing the people that are just, I guess, pouring in to be a part of lying in state over there. I mean, you can just see that's just how many people he's touched, and I guess and that extends even over here.
Yes, it's true. I think this was a relatively accessible pope. People understood a lot of what he was about, maybe not everything. The very fact that he chose the name Francis, the first pope to do so, indicated that he was, maybe not standing on ceremony, the ceremony perhaps of taking a name of a previous pope, but in fact was taking the name of a very popular saint and a saint that most people associate with simple living and a respect for nature.
What's next? Obviously, we have the funeral coming up and the burial. In the weeks to come, the days to come, there's a whole process. Can you talk a little bit about that and what I guess folks can expect?
Yes, people even are. I don't know how many people have asked me, are you going to the funeral? And I don't know. There's something like just I think under 4,000 bishops in the world, and if we all decided to go there, we would take up a lot of space. But the cardinals, of course, have gone, and because it is certainly their duty to be there for the conclave that comes afterward, and most of them would want to be there also for the funeral. Yes, immediately upon the death of the Pope, it's what we call sede vacante. The chair is empty, and so things, a certain protocol goes into place. Various cardinals who have been assigned certain roles during that time step into those roles, and life goes on, but God goes on in a very unusual way because these deaths don't come at any particular interval, and yet these folks have to be ready always to assume that. So probably about, I don't know, let's say 10 days after the funeral, something like that, the conclave will begin. All of these cardinals, we presumably are either in Rome already or will be there shortly. And as you may know, the cardinals who are under 80 years old can vote in the conclave for the next pope. And there's I believe, 135 of those right now. About 80% of whom have been appointed by Pope Francis, but that doesn't particularly mean that they are going to vote in any particular block or in any particular idiom. So they will begin after having discussions among themselves, because these folks don't really know each other all that well. They haven't been together a lot. There haven't been real reasons to be together. Even with the synod that went on, they weren't there all together during that. So there haven't been many occasions for them to get to know each other. So that's presumably a lot of what they're going to be doing and maybe already are doing. You know, our former Archbishop, Archbishop Gregory, is now Cardinal Gregory. He's there as one of the cardinal delegates, and so he will be there for the funeral and also for the election of the next pope. They do, I believe, if on the first day they're, I believe, limited to one ballot. After that, they are in successive days. They can do two ballots in the morning and two in the afternoon, and they do that until they get to a two-thirds majority. That's the sign that a pope has been elected, and they all take an oath. All these cardinals going into the conclave that if elected, they will serve, in other words, and which kind of makes sense. You don't want to wind up after all of this and find that somebody is reluctant for some reason. And then the next question is, what name do you choose? Meaning, probably you have to have thought about that a little bit going in. Even if you think I'm the last of 135 to be elected, you probably want to have a name ready just in case.
Well, how special is it to have one of your own, Cardinal Gregory, going over there? How was he feeling going over there before he left? I'm sure it's probably overwhelming.
Yes, he just retired, 2 months ago in Washington? So very recently, and I suppose he wasn't thinking he was soon going to be on a plane going to Rome, but probably is very glad that he is retired in the sense that now it doesn't make that much difference when he gets back to Washington. His successor will have to be concerned about that. In the past, I remember when the Second Vatican Council was going on, and that went on for several years, that bishops were out of their own dioceses and had to spend time in Rome. And some of them, I remember, complained, that they were missing certain key events in their own dioceses. But again, he's free at this point and probably is enjoying being with some of these people. He studied in Rome for his theology, actually for his graduate degree, and so he would know some of these other cardinals. I don't know how many, but he would know some of them. Yeah.
Timeline wise, how long are we looking at in terms of that selection process?
Probably it looks like by mid-May or earlier, there should be a new pope elected.
Okay. And what impact do you think Pope Francis, has made on kind of how, the choice of a new pope? I mean, what goes into that?
I think it's a kind of there's a contrasting way of looking at that. One is, I think he was such it was so clear that what he was about was trying to portray the kind of love and concern, kind of compassion that he felt the gospel of Jesus Christ was all about. And I think a next pope would at least be expected to exhibit some of those same characteristics. At the same time, it's not uncommon for the next pope to be somewhat unlike the one that he follows. I mean, it's just a bit of a yin and yang sometimes, and we've seen that over the years. That there was the John Paul I, who only lived for 33 days as a pope. And then came John Paul II. John Paul I was, I suppose, what you could call a standard Italian pope who came from the ranks of the Italian cardinals. But then here comes this Polish pope who's fairly young for a pope, 58, I believe, when he was elected. And then when you think of Francis, who was elected at 76, you have to just kind of smile. I mean, what other group in the world expects somebody to take on this position of enormous responsibility at the age of 76? Yeah. And it's a brand new job, and you're brand new at it, and here you are, you're the Pope. So it's a little hard to say. I think probably there will be some cardinals who will be thinking, yes, we could probably use with a little bit of a different tenor, a little bit of a different character in the papacy. And there are probably some who are thinking, gee, wouldn't it be great to have someone else maybe who follows in the tradition of Francis.
Bishop Ponzin from the Archdiocese of Atlanta, again, thank you for your time. Be thinking about you guys, praying for you all in the days to come.
Welcome to Burgers with Buck Second Helping, a look back at some of our best burgers with Buck memories. And man, there are a lot of them. And this week, we began in East Cobb at the place that serves the self-proclaimed best barbecue in Marietta, although I think few would argue with that. Few would also argue with the fact that Friday is the best day of the work week. And in case you need it, here's one more reason.